Are we live?
Yeah. Dr. Nystrom.
Hey, Pam. Okay.
All right, you want to call it to order?
5:01, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Mitch, roll call, please.
Alphon,
Here.
Dr. Nystrom. Here.
I'm socializing.
Dr. Melhouse.
Yes.
Eben.
Here.
Richard.
Here. Okay. Number one, consideration of sealed bids opened and reviewed by the superintendent, secretary of the board, and financial advisor. We're going to have an update from Piper Sandler.
We are.
Yep. So Matt from Piper Sandler is on Zoom and he should be able to hear you.
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Yes.
So I'm going to review this packet that's up, should be up on your screen, and I think you might have a copy in your board packet as well. I'll go through it fairly quickly, and then that way, if you guys want to have questions, you certainly can ask as many questions as you want. But some of the folks on the board have been through this several times, and I think all of you have been through it this last summer. One board member. So
Hey, Matt, you sound a little muffled.
okay, is this any better?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll go through it fairly quickly. There were two transactions, and we're going to see very similar worksheets for each one. So I'm going to go through them all, and then we'll come back and do the resolutions after you have we've had your questions answered. So what you see up here on the screen, first of all, is the report of sales for the sales tax revenue bonds, and we were asking the folks to bid on 3.1 million of sales tax revenue bonds. In the end, because of the way the bid was structured with the interest rates and the premium, we actually only needed to issue, or you are only going to need $2,970,000 principal to fund the same project. The rating on those bonds is from Standard & Poor's, and it's an A rating. You did receive 5 bids. The low bid you can see here from D.A. Davidson and Company in Denver, and we look to the true interest rate, this number in the bottom right corner, which is not just an average of the interest rates. As you can see, the interest rates that were assigned themselves are actually higher than this number, but this incorporates into the fact of the calculation, the interest plus the premium, if there is one, and the fees of that particular charge. So in this case, for you to think of it, it's sort of an average interest rate, but not really, but for board members, that's probably close enough. And that rate 1.816 versus the next best rate 1.92, and then going out to the 5th place or last place at 1.993. So a little bit higher rates than what we've been seeing over the last 6+ months, but as you probably all are aware, interest rates have begun to rise somewhat, not too dramatic quite yet, but we'll see what happens in the coming months. On this page, I know it's probably a little bit difficult for you to see on your screen, but if you have a copy of it, what it's showing you, this main part here in the middle, this is the bond amortization or the repayment schedule. Now, the principal on today's bond doesn't begin to be repaid until fiscal year 29 and then ends in fiscal year 32. The reason that there is no principal being repaid in the years leading up to fiscal year 29 is because you already have some existing sales tax bonds that have these payments that you see here, about $1,086,000 a year. So we are trying to wrap this new debt around that and keep the total annual payments as roughly level as we can. Now, it's your intention, I believe, to come back later this year and issue some more sales tax bonds, which we'll do after July 1. And when we do that, we'll actually fill in this empty space down here, and you'll have a new 20-year amortization. We'll talk more about that later this year when we start that process. The total principal and interest that you're paying back, assuming you don't pay back early, which you do have the option beginning in 2029 to either refinance or pay it back early or do nothing and just leave it outstanding. But we initially expected the principal and interest might total about 3.6 million. And in the end, the actual number is 3,549,000. So pretty close to what we had estimated. Even though the interest rates themselves are slightly higher, you're issuing less principal overall because of the premium, which we'll see on another page. So you're also adding to this $2.5 million of ESSER funds, as you can see in the sources and uses, so that the total project is being funded for the high school gym upgrade and HVAC, $5.5 million. Then we come here, this is just another version of the sources and uses that was just updated. You see there was a very large premium, $144,000 that was paid to you. The same thing happened last summer with your general obligation bonds, and we talked a little bit about it at that time. We'll talk about it on another page again here in just a moment, but it's very typical. Although, as interest rates start to rise, we will probably see less of this premium in the future. But the bonding costs and the underwriting costs that the winning bidder is charging are listed there as well. This is just a clean version of that debt service schedule, so maybe a little bit easier for you to see. The interest payments are semi-annual, and they do begin next January, and they get principal from 2029 to 2032. And then here's where you may remember from last summer, we talked about this premium. And so we have the interest rate, the yield, and it's the yield that is really equatable to what's the market. What is the market doing today? And you can see 1.45% to 1.65%. Now that seems a little bit high, although if you're not paying attention the last few years, it probably still seems extremely low, which it is, but in the bigger scheme of things, they've begun to come up. But remember that this is not out until 2029. So this is not like it's a 3-month or 1 year or 2 year rate. This is now basically a 7-year, 7.5-year interest rate, 1.45%. But because the district is paying the bondholder these 2 and 3% interest rates, they're paying you this premium up front, which is in order to entice you to pay them that for their own tax reasons and other reasons that they have themselves. So they're paying you about $144,000 up front for you to pay them that higher interest rate above what the yield is. So these bondholders are not earning 2% or 3%. They're earning this 1.455, 1.55, 1.65 because of the premium they pay you up front. And then the timeline for the sales tax issue, which is going to be very similar to the general obligation issue. Today, January 24th, we took bids this afternoon at 12:30, and we assume that you're going to award here shortly. And then at your next meeting on February 14th, that's when you'll do the same kind of resolution paperwork, issuance paperwork that you did for the general obligation bonds last year, the same process for any kind of bond issuance. So you'll do that at February 14th, and those documents will come to you from your bond attorney. And then the transaction will close on March 1st. So the money will be deposited into your bank of choice, and then you can start to spend that money first. So I went through that fairly quickly. Before I go to the general obligation, the financing, does anyone have questions about the sales tax portion of today's work? Sounds like none. So we'll go on to the general obligation. So here you're going to see the same kind of report. This is the report of sales for the general obligation refinancing bonds, which we call refunding bonds. Again, there was a very large premium. So we asked the bidders to bid on $6,115,000 of principal to refinance the 2 old issues. But in the end, you're actually only having to issue $5,755,000. The general obligation bonds are rated A+, so that's 1 notch higher than the sales tax. And that's actually fairly common, although we hope they're an A+ on the sales tax as well. But the general obligation bond is backed by property taxes, whereas the sales tax is not. So that is where you see the differences. Here you see these interest rates. And again, we're looking at this bottom right number. And the winner here, Northland Securities in Minneapolis, 1.43%. That's compared to the second place bidder at 1.55. And then the sixth place, or last place at 1.80. So 6 bids there, very nice number of bids. If you come here, again, this is going to be hard for you to see on your screen, but the 2 tables up at the top, those are showing the old bonds, so the bonds that are going to go away, that you're refinancing. And then down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a better version of this in a second. But this is the new bond. So this is what the new refinancing bond will look like. We were able to actually cut the payment short by 1 year because the bidder allowed that to happen, and that was something that Mitch suggested, and it was a good idea. So we squeezed that small amount of principal in that last year into the other material. That's saving a little bit more as well. The big picture here is that you're saving from this refinancing $234,000. So that's property taxes that you just will never have to levy, that you would otherwise have levied to repay these bonds, or if in a certain year you were going to use sales tax or couple to help make payments, which your board has done at some points in the past, that's $234,000 that you wouldn't need to transfer out of those funds. So either way, it's allowing either you to spend more in sales tax or tax less in property tax. So both very good things. Your tax levy rate for fiscal year 23 for the bonds will go up to $3.89. This year you're levying the full $4.05. So you will be having a discussion with Mitch in the coming month or so. It's possible that you could choose to levy the extra, which if you remember, you did that last year. It's called a surplus levy, but you may not. So that'll be part of your budget discussion that you'll have over the next 4 to 6 weeks or so. If you do nothing, it's going to be a $3.89 bond levy. Here is the clean version of those sources and uses. So you see that very large premium, $314,000, and the bonding and underwriting cost there. This is the new repayment schedule. So the principal here is beginning to be repaid next year, May of 2023, going out to 2031. These bonds are callable May of 2027. So if you can refinance them again, that will be an option. Or if you have extra money just sitting around from some other source, you can just pay them off. That's possible. Here again, the rate, the yield, and the price. Here we see the yield, which is the market, much lower because these are beginning in a much lower, shorter time period, 0.55% for that yield on the bonds that are maturing next May of 2023, going up to 1.7% in 2031 maturity. And that premium was generating $314,000. So that's how you were able to lower the amount of principal that you need to issue significantly because of that premium there. And then the timeline here, again, at your next meeting on February 14th, those same types of issuance resolutions, very simple for the board. You're just going to approve those. They'll be prepared by your attorney. This transaction will close on the 1st of March. That money will come into your bank and sit in your debt service fund, because the old bonds, the 2 different issues that have been refinanced, they will not be paid off until May 2nd. Technically May 1st, but that's a Sunday, so you can't do that. So it'll be paid off on May 2nd. And from that point forward, you will have 3 outstanding general obligation debts, and you will have 3 outstanding sales tax revenue bonds until you would presume add a 4th later this year. So any questions about the general obligation? Sounds like none. Mitch, is it all right for me to just go right into the resolutions? Is that the next item on your agenda?
Yeah, I think it'd be nice to point out that our tax rate, when we passed the elementary bond, we went to $4.05 per thousand, and with our property tax valuations and the refinancing, we're way under $4 per thousand. So
yeah, that's right. And you actually would be even further under it, but we intentionally pushed more principal into the fiscal year 23 maturity to save taxpayers even more money while still keeping the levy under what they were expecting when they voted on those bonds.
yeah.
The fact that we ran on a levy neutral
Yeah,
platform was absolutely true.
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, it was true and worked out.
Yeah, we actually lowered it, yeah. Mhm.
So I will go through these. They may not be in the exact order of your agenda items. But that's fine. All right. I'm going to begin with the sales tax revenue because that's the one up on the screen. If you'll remember from last time, I'm going to paraphrase the resolution or resolutions, and then one of the board members just simply needs to so move what I say, and another board member needs to second that motion, and then Mitch, you'll have to have a roll call vote for all of these. So the first resolution before you is directing the sale.
Hey, Matt, on our agenda is the refunding. Do you want to just, should we jump to that one first?
Sure. Yep, we can do that. So we'll jump to that one. So here, the first agenda, because there's actually our first item, there's 2 here because one is going to be directing the call. But the first item is directing the sale of $5,755,000 of general obligation school refunding bonds Series 2022 to Northland Securities of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mitch.
Alphon,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Melhouse,
yes,
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
All right, the second resolution related to the general obligation bonds is simply directing your staff to forward the call notice to United Missouri Bank, which is here in West Des Moines, and they are the paying agent and registrar for those bonds. So you will be forwarding that call notice to them. They will then forward that on to the current bondholders of the two different bonds that are being refinanced and give the required 30 days notice. So that's a paraphrase of what that resolution is, and that's sufficient.
Second,
Second.
other questions? Roll call, Mitch.
Alphon,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse,
yes,
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay, that should take care of the general obligation bonds. And then we move to the sales tax bonds. There's only one resolution here because these are not refinancing bonds. And the resolution before you is the directing the sale, of $2,970,000 of school infrastructure sales services and use tax revenue bonds, Series 2022, to D.A. Davidson and Company of Denver, Colorado.
Your motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Melhouse, second by Pat. Roll call, please.
Alphon,
Yes.
Dr. Nystrom,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse,
yes,
Stephen,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Okay, that should be all that you have on your agenda, Mitch, for the bonds. If there are other questions that the board members have at any time, or people in your community, if they ask you questions and you're not sure of the answer, definitely direct your questions to Mitch. He may be able to answer them himself, but if not, he can definitely contact me at any time, as any of you board members are welcome to do as well, and we can answer questions you or the community members have. So thank you and congratulations on the refinancing, and good luck with as you lead off to your next project here.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Matt.
Have a good night.
You.
So are we on to number 7 already, Mitch?
We're on to number 7.
Futures homeschool building change order.
I believe that the change order is simply to change the date of completion. Originally, it was set for December. And it needs to be altered so that the final completion, substantial completion to June 30th, the final completion to July 14th. Just because we had the delay due to having to reissue all of our hearings and steps due to the change in cost. So we're just the change order is simply to change the substantial completion and final completion dates.
and that is June of 2020.
23,
Instead of this fall.
yeah, instead of this fall originally, and then we were in December, and now I mean, if it's done earlier, great, but we need to make sure that they've got ample time to have the building ordered and get the materials and things like that. So
They feel like this is realistic.
yes, they are very confident in this timeline. So it would be done by the fall of 23, just like the elementary building.
I thought they were very good. That's good.
Mhm.
So we'd entertain a motion to approve change order number 1 for the futures homeschool building.
I move to recommend approval of the change order for the data completion for high futures and HSAP building change.
The tongue twister. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, number 8, high school scoreboard bids.
So you'll see in your documents that you had 3 bids that came forward for the scoreboards at for the newly renovated gym that we'll be doing. One was significantly higher than the other 2. That was Daktronics. So when you look at ScoreVision and Nevco, essentially, there are a couple of differences between these 2 scoreboards. One is that ScoreVision included the bench as part of their bid, and Nevco did not, and that's something we would want as the scorer's bench included, because we're gonna need that anyway. The other major difference comes in Nevco requires a lot more with regard to the technology that we would have to have on. And it's essentially replacing exactly what we have, whereas ScoreVision is updating and we can use any iPad. It would provide a lot more flexibility. So
More flexibility in the classroom, so the PE teachers can project lessons up there and exercises, so.
it would be more than a scoreboard. It would
Yeah.
allow us to utilize it for a multitude of events, including like graduation or some of the concerts that we might have in the gym. It would allow us to do things that the Nevco bid would not allow us to do because of the hardware that they're suggesting. Software. So our recommendation from the district's perspective is to approve the ScoreVision bid for $127,484. And the other thing I would add is that we are also exploring writing a grant to the Boone County Foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah, Community Foundation to try and attain some grant funds. Boosters have also been looking to be able to contribute, and we've been trying to identify other sources to help support payment of the scoreboards as well, not just from our own
So
district funds.
this would not come out of general funds, this would come out of the,
Yep, so either come out of the homeschool bond if there's a little bit over after we make that sale, or the sales tax fund.
Right.
Okay, and is the Booster Club going to be the nonprofit that we go through,
To write the grant.
write the grant?
Yep.
Mhm.
Sean Santee
Yeah.
and Brett Collins went to the meeting last Friday. I couldn't make it. I was out of town. So they joined the meeting. So
Okay.
we'll-
Having been on the board, I just know that
Mhm.
your nonprofit needs to be very clear cut and not a school. It works,
Yep.
it works better, a lot better.
Yep.
Mhm.
This is Brett's first choice.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not. doing-
Brett
so
and
he's not here.
Mr. Coach McPartland and
Mhm.
John, everybody has really done a lot of research and seen the best and traveled to other schools. And I think everybody just,
there
On
wasn't
this.
much of a cost difference between the last two.
I don't remember the cost. It was
Yeah,
enough that just having a
111.
bench, yeah.
yeah, Nevco is 111,600 and then
Mhm.
ScoreVision was taken out to table to been 113,
Mhm.
not
112.
Right. And again, it comes with a lot more flexibility for us to use the scoreboards for other things. And I think that that's important for us to.
So we're not talking apples to apples, so therefore we do not have to accept
Correct.
lowest bid.
And that's why we took it out of the high school project, because we didn't want to have a
Mhm.
base scoreboard. We want this and have people bid against it. So that's another reason why we took it out of the high school project.
Mhm.
Are we gonna do any fundraisers or anything with like the gym floor? You know, how some people sell chunks of the gym floor. When I was at the basketball game on Friday, see if they could take the big Toreador logos out and sell those or anything like that to help.
Have not talked about that.
We got to ask somebody who wants some bleachers.
That's right. Anyone wants to leave?
Yeah, it'd be great, really.
I don't know if I want the bleachers for the elementary.
Yeah. No.
I move to approve the ScoreVision bid for $127,484.
Second,
Motion and a second. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 9, high school course registration handbook.
I'm going to turn this over to John. He'll speak to this issue and then maybe Levi too. We'll see.
Tell me where you want to go.
Okay, I think I'll be pretty clear. So, you click on the current one, please. Should I sit, stand, what should I do?
Whatever you want to do.
I'll come over here.
There you go.
All right, so you don't have to click on anything yet, Mitch. So, recently our Google site was outdated. It was an old version of Google Sites, so we needed to update. So Levi transferred it over to this, the updated Google Sites. All of our old information. And we're updating the course handbook to get it ready for all of you. We discovered in discussing with our PLCs how difficult it is to navigate this new Google site. So for example, Mitch, we go to like course descriptions. And so if you were going to click on art, for example, if you just clicked on art, it takes you to a page that doesn't have our course offerings. It's just a general landing site. And we're trying to use this for students and families to be able to navigate. So they would need to click on the arrow and then have all of the pages. Doesn't have a lot of navigating back and forth. It's just not very user friendly. So as we were updating and meeting with our PLCs, we decided that we would talk to Levi about using a different data site.
Or maybe.
Yeah, and so we're going to share that with you in a minute. We do have all of our updates that we're going to put into our handbook, which I think have been shared with all of you.
Go to the updates and yeah. There you go.
And so these were all, we met with all of our PLCs, discussed with all of our leads, and we've made updates to our course offerings. And we are going to put it in this new system that Levi is going to show you. Do you have that, Mitch, or not?
Do you want to share it with me? Or do you want to take the?
You can do whatever you want.
So Levi has just created this for us. We're going to go through it quickly. Drake and I spent maybe 30 minutes on it today, and we're able to add 6 courses. So it's really easy for us to add. A couple of nice things for those of you that work in websites. It does the formatting for you. So it's not like people are putting in their own text and formatting it all by themselves, and each page looks a little different. So this is more of a database. And so if you do courses by subject, Mitch, and art courses, it has we've only put 2 in, Intro to Art and Intro to Art 2. You click on those and it'll take you to the course description. And then students can toggle back and forth to go to home or all courses. And it brings up all of our courses down there. We'll have which year they're offered, which semester, and it will allow students to go back and forth and toggle between these courses really easily. And we have our college and career fair day on February 2nd. And our goal is to have this uploaded so our students can use this when they're making their course plan for next year. And you can see all the ones up top that kids can access. So we put a few CTE courses in, some English courses in. So we think this is going to be really beneficial for our community and our students. So I apologize for not having it all ready for you today, but we will have it ready for our students, and the content's going to be the same. We're just updating it into here.
Yeah, eventually we'll add more tabs where it says home, all courses, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll add stuff about like college classes, college requirements, standard reference grading, something about Edge up there as well, like we do in our current.
Any questions?
Looks good.
I would say it looks really nice. I assume mobile friendly as well.
Yeah.
Based on you talked about the sometimes it converts differently. Okay.
Looks good.
It looks great.
Yeah.
Nice improvement, upgrade. I see no problems with it. My only question, and this is just a technical question, is it's kind of hard for us to approve the final project when you guys are still working on it.
Yeah, and I would take the board's advisement in that. We're not changing any of the wording other than if we notice spell check errors or things like that. It's all the documents that are in there as far as the current handbook and then the updates. But if you want us to present it to you at another time, that's fine, completed. We would want to have it ready to go for students on February 2nd if they're going to be using it to plan their.
February 2nd.
Yeah.
Could we approve the content tonight and have another demonstration of the platform at our
Yeah,
February?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because I think what they made sure they did is they had all the updates, meaning what was different than the other one is all listed under updates. So hopefully that's enough information for you to know what's changed and what hasn't, because I think that's usually what you want. Usually we show like, this is what it used to be, this is what it looks like now. And so that's why they did that summary update. At least you could know what had changes in it, what did not. But I think we can absolutely come back after, but we're hoping to be able to say, given what you do have in the updates, are you comfortable with the updates that were provided to you with what's content wise is within there so that they can move forward or not?
I'll move that we provide preliminary approval for this this course handbook updates to be completed and out to the students by February 2nd with final approval at our, with final demonstration at our February board meeting.
Yep.
That,
Sounds good. A second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor, aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn, anybody?
So moved.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.